Hello once again everyone, Original Blood Ace here, and it's time for another discussion. Now, this one is going to probably be a fairly lengthy video, and I'm only going to cover one of the 4 pages of information here. But this was the Corporate Management Policy Briefing, third quarter financial results, blah 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 blah. Anyway, this is mostly between the investors, Miyamoto, and I think Iwata's even in this a bit. So let's just get into it. I'm going to read this all out. Yes, it's going to be story time, basically, me reading out all this crap. But we'll go over it piece by piece and have a bit of a discussion. So let's begin. So, question. With Nintendo's 3 consecutive operating losses in the spotlight, which means, right off the bat, they're calling out Nintendo and saying, everyone knows that you're in a predicament right now. I think Mr. Iwata is in a very difficult position, similar to the time that he was tasked with rebuilding HAL Laboratory. We won't get into that. I think Mr. Iwata could have chosen the easier option, which was to easily take responsibility by just resigning, meaning they wanted him to, or they said he could have just quit. But he didn't choose that path. I would like Mr. Iwata to tell us his thoughts on the decision. I feel that the drop in the company's performance was largely due to the fact that Nintendo was not able to communicate the value of Wii U well. Holy crap, the investors called him out. What will he say? Well, we'll get to that in a second. People have been saying this even since it was first revealed at E3 2011 when they only showed off the gamepad when they said Wii U. Nintendo, they're advertising their plan to drive the information into consumers' brains has fallen short. Investor here calls him out on it. So let's continue. Nintendo has consistently failed to release enough titles in the initial launch periods of both 3DS and Wii U, although in the 3DS's defense, the 3DS has obviously recovered greatly now and is still the best system currently in the world. Not like, greatest selling of all time, but that's the DS/PS2. But anyway, the point is, and the 3DS is slowing down right now. But that's going to pick up. That's just because it's the start of a new year. The games haven't really been fully revealed yet, other than Smash Bros., Kirby Triple Deluxe, and Yoshi's New Island. We don't really know about any major 3DS games yet, but those will come. Those will come. And then 3DS sales will once again fly off the shelves. But anyway, he's right about the Wii U, though. And I would like Mr. Miyamoto to tell us what he intends to do about this problem in the future, which is kind of funny, seeing as like, oh, Miyamoto's the only one there that makes games. But anyway, in response to the drop in the company's financial performance, people have also described Wii U's technical specifications as low, and I would like to ask Mr. Takeda, or whatever, to tell us whether he intends to communicate more widely the ideas and philosophy behind the development of the Wii U hardware to dispel such myths. I've said this time and time again, the Wii U is technically the weakest of the 3 systems, but it's not that noticeable. All 3 8th gen systems are 1080, can easily run up to 1080p 60 frames per second. Wii U is better, graphically for art style games, where it's focused on having a unique art style, whether it's something like Pikmin, whether it's something like a Pokemon game, a Smash Bros. Game, a Zelda game, stuff like that. But when it comes to more realistic graphics and such, the power comes into handy with the Xbox One and whatnot, and the PS4, although those systems have their issues as well. But I've said this time and time again, Wii U is not, weak in the sense that, oh, it's just getting blown away. No. But anyway, we're not getting into that. Finally, it appears that Nintendo is struggling to gain third-party support. Oh man, call the newspaper, because, that's a front-page story. Nintendo's been struggling with that since the fucking Super Nintendo, N64. But as long as they get key third-party titles, which I believe Iwata said before, I'm fine with that. Really, for me, at this point in time, I can only think of 2 third parties that I would really want to be on Wii U. One being Destiny, everyone knows that, and the second being A Tales of Symphonia 3 from Namco Bandai, or Bandai Namco, as they want to flip their name around in the English version. Other than that, I really don't give a shit. Well, maybe also Watch Dogs. But other than that, don't really give a shit. A point which I would like Mr. Iwata to comment on. So let's move on here for an answer from Iwata. Whether a platform can achieve great market penetration or not depends on its momentum, which Wii U didn't really have any. They had a little bit of a buzz at the beginning with the gamepad controller, but then after that just dropped off. With momentum, we can expect a lot of... I can't even pronounce that. My mouth won't pronounce that. Man, I'm just gonna skip that word. Blah 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 effects. On the other hand, when a platform loses momentum, various forces work against it. Nintendo DS, while it struggled in the beginning, achieved a turnaround later. With Wii, we were fortunate enough to cross the chasm between early adopters and early majority, something one must overcome in order to popularize the products, including video game systems, meaning, casuals. Before we even knew we did, Nintendo 3DS had a difficult beginning, but we managed to turn it around later. Of course you did. And like I've said before, even with the Wii U, Nintendo has the tools and all the skill that they need to turn the Wii U around, just like the 3DS, but it's going to be harder since it's a home console and not a handheld. Lost my train of thought here in my space here. So far, we have not been able to do so with the Wii U. No shit. This is where we stand right now. I have never thought of resignation as an option. Good, Iwata. That's just being a quitter, and quitters never get anywhere in life. And I believe that my job is to do whatever I can do to deliver results. And I am as passionate about this responsibility as ever. However, as we need to take responsibility in some way, we announced that our management would receive compensation cuts, which is the price cuts. About your comment that we failed to communicate the value of Wii U, I will first ask Mr. Miyamoto to share his thoughts on the game shortages in the launch periods. Then Mr. Takeda to share his thoughts on the widespread misunderstandings about the Wii's hardware, and then I will talk about our thoughts on third-party support. So Miyamoto says, I interpret the question as asking whether we are making the same mistake every time we launch a new hardware system. While we are always working on this, I think you are right in the sense that we have not been able to deliver results. When we launched the 3DS and the DS, we were unable to release games from any of our main Nintendo franchises to coincide with their launches. With Wii U, however, we released, along with the hardware, New Super Mario Bros. U. Whoop-de-doo, whoop-de-fucking-doo, you got a Mario game out, good for you. While it was either the first or the second best New Super Mario Bros. Game, it's still the milked New Super Mario Bros. Franchise. And as well as Nintendo Land, I mean, that was just a bunch of minigames, that's nothing to brag about. Yeah, it was fun, but it's nothing to brag about. Which is a very unique proposition. If you look beyond, we also released a new installment in the Pikmin series after a long interval. Yeah, 9 fucking years. Where's our Star Fox? Get on it. And F-Zero 2. And we also had Super Mario 3D World at the end of last year. Yeah, that was your biggest game. You had one, well, that and Pikmin 3 were the biggest hitters of the year. You had 2 games. Woohoo. Whoop-de-fucking-do. Therefore, I feel that we have managed to overcome the challenge of releasing enough first-party franchises on Wii U. Are you kidding, Miyamoto? Miyamoto. You can't be serious. Maybe if you had 2 to 3 more games, then I could agree with you. But when you have Super Mario 3D World, Pikmin 3, and apparently Nintendo Land in a whole year, that's really not much to talk about. And then he says, by the end of this year, we will have Mario Kart 8 as well as Super Smash Bros. 2 games? 2 games? You think that that's going to impress anyone? Yes, those are 2 of your biggest franchises that you have. But 2 first-party titles? Whoop-de-doo, that's not a thing to brag about. That's like Microsoft saying, hey, guess what? In the entire year of, well, I guess maybe now 2015, supposedly, I guess that rumor still hasn't been confirmed yet, but that's like Microsoft saying, well, guess what? In Halo 15, the only thing we have to look forward to is Halo 5, and that's about it. So good luck with that. I mean, you can't just do that. Anyway, let's move along here. I lost my train of thought again here. Therefore, I feel that we have managed to overcome the challenge of releasing blah blah blah. Also, despite their sales falling below our expectations so far, I do not think that these games were not well received because they lacked appeal. Of course not. They did look fun, and they were fun. But the issue was they weren't targeting the people. They're the right people. We received a top score for Super Mario 3D World from Metacritic, a site which gives weighted averages scores for games at the end of last year, and our games are highly praised for their quality. That is very true. The issue is you are picking the same franchises over and over again. But anyway, the fact that they did not lead to generating wider consumer interest among the general public is, however, something that we have to take very seriously. If you look at just Japan, however, Super Mario 3D World was very well received by children, with Cat Mario gaining ground. I'm not surprised. Consumers also seem very excited about Mario Kart 8, as we should be, and I'm confident that they will want to buy it once they have played it. So what does that mean? A demo? Maybe? I doubt it. And even if you do give us a demo, it's going to be one of those stupid, you can only play it 10 times things. Our biggest downfall last year was that we failed to communicate the true value of Wii U. Miyamoto himself says it right there. They failed to communicate the true value of Wii U. Failed marketing. Haha. Failed to make children persuade their parents to buy our products for them. And failed to offer products that parents could not resist. Nintendo, see, that's where you're wrong. You thought you could capitalize twice in a row just because of using the name Wii, when you ended up confusing everyone. Except for those who actually are the loyal Nintendo fans who watch Nintendo Directs and follow along day-to-day news involving your company. But I can't believe Miyamoto says we failed, where was it? To make children persuade their parents to buy our products. That just seems like such a bullshit thing to say. I mean, I understand it, but you gotta stop targeting the kids. And it's as Iwata said before about misreading the market. Kids, other than Call of Duty kids, are playing fucking iPad games and all that 99-cent smartphone crap, like Angry Birds and all that shit. So Nintendo, ignore the kids for the meantime. Wait until the fad of iPad gaming and smartphone gaming dies down, because eventually, that's the thing about casuals, they can't hold their attention on anything for very long. Eventually they'll come back to consoles. When? Halfway through this generation's my guess. That's when you should start more caring towards them. Reggie said before, and yes, I'm still not reading on here, I'm getting off topic here, but Reggie himself has said before, which was probably just PR talk, we're also targeting the core. Barely. Nintendo should focus on the core gamers, the ones that are telling Nintendo, we want these games. Not making things for kids. Now, I'm not saying make bloody, mature-rated things. No. I'm just saying make games we want. Make Custom Robo 2. Make Star Fox. Make F-Zero. Make Shenmue 3, whichever. All that crap. Anyway, let's move on here. Lost my spot again. What we can do about it from now on is our theme. As Mr. Iwata explained earlier, we are confident that Nintendo Land offered compelling as well as Nintendo-like gameplay experiences for 4 to 5 people when they gathered in the living room by taking full advantage of the 2 screens. And before I continue, I must say, when the fuck are we going to get a game that has 2 gamepad support? Seriously? Because whenever you're playing local multiplayer, which for me does not happen very often, one thing I always get asked is, well, how come I have to use a Wii remote? Where's my gamepad? We need to have that second gamepad experience. Especially, just for some ideas I can throw it off the top of my head. Mario Kart 8 would work, Smash Bros. Could work, how about a frickin' Yu-Gi-Oh game? You'd have your cards in your hand on the gamepad screen so your friend wouldn't see what cards are in your hand, and then you'd play them, and then you'd go up onto the TV. Something even as simple as that. And even a Pokemon game, you could somehow do a Pokemon battle with 2 gamepads. You know, something like that, I don't know. Anyway, now I lost my spot again. Nintendo also talking about Miyamoto talking about the local multiplayer. This is not Japan, where every house, you just go to everyone's fucking house and play Wii U and 3DS, but whatever. But some of the single-player experiences were rather weak. So earlier he says Nintendo Land was good. Now he's saying some of the single players were weak. So what is it, good or weak? Make up your mind. It is my conviction that we will need to put more focus on creating experiences that utilize the gamepad that can also be fully enjoyed when playing alone. Yes! That's what you should have done since E3 2011. Remember the little demo you showed with all the little cool things that you could do? Even that silly little the Wii Golf thing and all that crap? And the NFC readers? Use the gamepad in unique ways. Even fucking Retro Studios didn't with Donkey Kong. And I'm not going to get into that, but my point is, why is Nintendo, it's like they were daydreaming when they released the Wii U, and then they woke up and they realized, like, oh, I thought the Wii U was a dream, I didn't realize we actually released it, well, we better get to work and actually do stuff for it. That's the way I get, that's the impression I get. with Nintendo and the fucking Wii U. Don't get me wrong, I'm not bashing the system. I love the Wii U system, except for the Miiverse. But anyway, let's continue on here. Where are we here? The fact that the gamepad and the TV interact as soon as the Wii U is switched on is very important, as it means that our consumers are always able to enjoy stable gaming experiences, unlike a tablet device with a TV. I don't know why I brought the tablet in, I guess it's just because of the gamepad screen, but whatever. The two screens are always connected when they are switched on. In terms of user experience, we are currently working on the amount of time it takes to load a game. Why? I'm not in a fucking rush. You don't need to make it speed up 10-15 seconds. I don't care. But it is very important that we have a guaranteed environment in which the gamepad and the TV are connected. We know that having such an environment allows for various useful propositions for the living room, and we have continued to develop software in this spirit. If you say so. I guess they just haven't shown them yet. Where's those big Nintendo Directs, which you missed out on in January? Anyway, in terms of our efforts toward ensuring that we supply the market with adequate titles at all times, although it may come across as an excuse, I would like to mention that Wii U has massively evolved from Wii technology. No one thinks it's just a slightly improved Wii, except for the idiots who don't follow along, the stupid casuals, they might think, and parents might think that, but of course it's a much stronger system. Using shader technology, for example, has significantly changed our development environment as well as our developers themselves, and the time to develop games, all of which are areas toward which we have been making significant reinforcements. Although we have recreated some of our past games for Wii U, meaning Wind Waker HD, we are actually trying to use many outside developers to help us do so. Yeah, because that turned out so well the last time. You had EA help you make the Nintendo Network, and then they wanted it, you said no, because it's ours, and then you pissed them off, and then they said fuck you. Anyway, while we focus on internal resources on making new games, I feel confident that we have made a significant improvement in this regard. Moreover, we are trying to cut down the time it takes to create a suitable development environment, as it has proven to be a huge bottleneck, and we are continuing to make improvements in this area across the whole company too. I think that we will be able to smoothly carry out a process of upgrading Nintendo franchises and offering them to our consumers in a stable fashion on future systems. Hopefully. Big words, Miyamoto. Big fucking words. And then when he was talking about, where is it here, that third-party thing? Outside developers to help us do so. Use developers to their fullest. Don't be greedy and let people like Platinum Games make Star Fox. Anyway, let's continue on. Now, Iwata talks here. Many people say that when a platform loses its momentum, it tends to receive little third-party support. But I think it's not a matter of the number of titles, but the real problem lies in the availability of popular software that is selling explosively. You might somehow misunderstand that Wii had a lot of games from the start, but Wii and Wii U had similar number of titles in their launch periods. However, Wii had Wii Sports, a title that could be enjoyed alone or with a group of people. Yes, except Wii Sports was a far more long-lasting fun game, at least for me, than Nintendo Land ever was. Nintendo Land should have had fucking online. But anyway, where am I here? We had Wii Sports, a title that could be enjoyed alone or a group of people, whose appeal was easy to understand and communicated itself widely. Many people have said that Nintendo Land is a great game to play with a group of people, yeah, if you have them, but its single-player experiences have not been received as well, of course. As a result, Nintendo Land differed in its ability to appeal to consumers and communicate its simplicity. Of course, we have to learn from our mistakes in the first half of last year. Is that right? What? We have to learn from our... Yeah. In which we failed to release a sufficient amount of software. Thank you for Iwata for admitting the obvious. But the reason that became... Wait, what? But the reason that became such a serious problem was because there weren't enough titles that sold over an extended period. For you, that is a problem. For us, no. We buy our copy, we want the next game, a month to a month and a half later. But anyway, continue to provide a buzz in society and remained active. This is more of a question of quality, not quantity. A little bit of both in there, actually, Iwata. And the problem is that we have not been able to release winning hits. Creating winning hits is something that I always discuss with Mr. Miyamoto, as you should, because he knows what it takes. Look at Ocarina of Time, for example. Look at Mario being created, Donkey Kong being created, so forth. Next, I would like Mr. I hate this fucking name, Takeda, or whatever, to respond to your comment that we should do, or be more proactive in communicating the technical aspects of Wii U, as people say, meaning the power, among many other misunderstandings that the Wii U's technical specifications are low, and it is difficult to develop games on Wii U, which is false. It's more difficult for fucking Xbox One. Just one little tip I'll throw out there is the fucking three, what do you call them, operating systems. So anyway, here, Genyo Takeda, or whatever, the senior managing director, Mr. Iwata, just explained that Nintendo leads an integrated hardware-software business. To put it differently, combining technology with entertainment creates wow, I can't even talk. With entertainment creates machines. Under such circumstances, Nintendo tries not to emphasize the raw technical specifications of our hardware. We have focused on how we can use technology to amplify the value of our entertainment offerings, and in this sense, technology for us is something that stays in the background, meaning they make stuff that they use for their games and not for others. Therefore, I do not wish to make excuses for having so far failed to offer the amplifier that our consumers can regard as having true entertainment value. It's basically talking about people who thinks that true entertainment value is from, superpower. Whether a machine is powerful or not only has meaning in the context of whether that can express itself in terms of gameplay to consumers. Hello? Tell that to Sony and Xbox people. You can have the most impressive graphically looking thing before, like last gen with Crysis 3. Oh, it looked amazing, but it was complete fucking shit in gameplay. So anyway, my point is, gameplay over graphics. Otherwise, you just have a shiny piece of crap. Anyway, and I therefore do not intend to go into fine detail about the specific numbers. I apologize for not directly answering your question, but it is my personal belief that explanations of such a nature have little relevance to consumers. And I believe I said that in a post or in a video before, didn't I? Where there was a time when the gamers didn't care about numbers, they didn't care about sales numbers, they didn't care about power of a system and specs. As a gamer, you look up trailers, you pay attention to the gaming news, you're like, oh, what's this game about? Oh, I'm going to watch a video on it, looks cool, I'm going to buy it, and then you buy it and have a good time. That's the job of gamers. The only people who should be interested in sales numbers, really, are the investors and the higher-ups at Nintendo. Or whatever company you're at, for that matter. Back in the N64 days, when I was just a kid, I was like, 10 years old or something back then. Back then you just were like, ooh, what's this game? I got a system, I'm gonna play this game, and you sit there on your floor in front of your TV playing, and it's just a good time. But now, I hate to do it, I don't like to have to talk about numbers, but it's such a common thing now because of the last generation. I don't know. Anyway, let's continue on. I feel like this is going to be like a freaking 45-minute long discussion video, but whatever. People seem to misunderstand what Nintendo wanted to offer. This is the next question. By launching that new hardware, would it not make sense for you to tell people why you developed Wii U and what kind of philosophy went into its design? Takeda says, rather than thinking differently between hardware and software, I would like to continue to use technology in order to amplify the overall entertainment values in ways that are easy to understand for our consumers. And the technologies we should investigate will be more and more different from the past. Basically meaning we don't ever want to repeat ourselves. Except for with the fucking name, the Wii. But anyway, it is not just the I can't fucking say that word. Computational power of a computer that is important, but it is the way in which technology can connect with entertainment in ways that are easy for consumers to understand. It is my hope to communicate the value of the Wii U hardware with concrete examples with which consumers can feel, oh, so this is it. Which is basically, once you play the Wii U, you finally get it. And you're like, oh, okay, I get you. Iwata says, we developed Wii U in an attempt to change the way people play with a video game system on TV. Traditionally, the players needed to be in front of a TV in order to play a home console, meaning that it was impossible to play when others were watching TV. Unless you had a secondary TV, but under these conditions, especially in Japan, handheld game devices increased their share and their home console market became smaller. With Wii, we managed to a certain degree to bring everyone back into the living room to play games. However, While you could occupy the TV screen and enjoy games when you were playing with the others, it was still difficult to occupy the TV screen when you are playing alone, which was a huge issue for us. On the other hand, battery-powered handheld devices only allowed for a limited range of gaming experiences. The starting point for the Wii U gamepad was the question of how can we offer rich gaming experiences anywhere in the house without being restricted to the TV screen. In addition, we have considered, for example, what is made possible by having two screens or a mechanism in which there is a screen only one person can see, which is asymmetric gameplay really, and combined these propositions to develop the Wii U. However, I feel it is our fault that we failed to ensure that these features were explicit to our consumers, which means, no one understood it. What Mr. Miyamoto and I are trying to achieve is a product whose concept people can easily understand, which is linked to what I said earlier today about developing titles that are only made possible by the Wii U gamepad. Now, before I continue, I have to say, advertising, advertising, advertising. You want to know why people don't get it? People don't understand the way the Wii U works, what's unique about it? I'll give you an example. Now, I don't remember if I said this in a video the other day. I think I did. But a commercial I saw for Wii U was a Campbell's Soup commercial, with Mario music playing in the background, and the can of soup jumping up and down like Mario. That has nothing to do with the system, other than tell people it plays Mario. You want to show people what the gamepad can do? Show them stuff like off-TV play in your commercials. Show people, the old E3 2011 things where people were just like, hey, I want to watch baseball, blah, 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 or football or something, and then you just can switch it to your gamepad. You got to show people Zombie U things where you're, hacking and stuff when Watch Dogs comes out. Show that. I don't know. Those types of things. It's just plain obvious. I really struggle to understand how Nintendo was so oblivious to this. And we go back to my point I made earlier, where maybe Nintendo was daydreaming this whole time, and they thought they were dreaming about making a thing called the Wii U, and they didn't actually realize they did, and they made it in their sleep, and they sold it, and they released it. Maybe that's the reason, huh? They woke up and are like, oh shit, we gotta fix this. But anyway, point is, let's continue. Finally, in terms of third-party support, while many point out that Nintendo has traditionally been weak in terms of acquiring it, if you consider the Japanese market, it is fair to say that the number one dedicated video game system that Japanese third-party publishers are focusing on is the 3DS. Which, I could see that, but that's because the 3DS is a fucking unstoppable juggernaut. And if the 3DS wasn't this successful, then Nintendo would be even in a far, far worse situation than they are right now. But anyway, this is because Nintendo 3DS has an overwhelmingly strong presence in the hardware as well as software markets. That's because you've made some really good fucking games that actually come out quite frequently, Nintendo. Unlike the Wii U, where it's like, oh, here's one game, we delay, and you have, 2-3 games in a fucking year that are must-haves. You have to have at least 8 good games in a year, I would say, in Nintendo. But anyway, I lost my spot again. Great. Meaning that it would be illogical not to do business on the Nintendo 3DS, and we are cooperating with third-party publishers, not developers, so hopefully that means Activision with Destiny, I don't know, in a variety of ways as long as we can establish win-win relationships. See, that's kind of another thing. That's Nintendo's stubbornness right there. For example, when there was a developer who made some zombie game, I forget what it was called, and he was just, they were basically saying we aren't going to put it on Wii U because Nintendo's not going to pay us to put it on Wii U. Nintendo's stubbornness where they're just like, we're not going to just pay you. If you want to work with us and put it on our system, then that's fine, then we can make it a win-win situation for us. But if you're just going to only put it on our system if we shell out money for you, then screw it. That's where Nintendo's stubbornness comes in handy. Or not in handy, but it comes into play. On the other hand, if you turn to the overseas market, meaning North America and, everything, as home consoles are more popular, which they are, many publishers are not as focused on handheld devices. In such an environment, while we are certainly not satisfied with its overall unit sales or the results from last year and sales season, and before I continue on, it's funny how this is home consoles in North America are a much bigger deal, yet Nintendo still basically says that they focused on their 3DS. Anyway, the fact that Nintendo 3DS has now sold over 10 million units in both the US and Europe seems to be news for third-party publishers, and we have only recently been receiving more proposals from third-party publishers, which is probably for 3DS, not Wii U. However, as many overseas software publishers are specialized in developing games for high-end home consoles, while they are very interested in Nintendo 3DS, it appears that they are currently investigating what they want to develop on our platform. Also, we sometimes distribute or even publish, depending on the circumstances, Bayonetta 2, games that were made by Japanese software publishers in the overseas markets, and you can expect to see more examples of this this year and the next. As for the 3DS, as I mentioned before, its total global sales have already exceeded 40 million units, which is great. As for Wii U, opinions significantly differ among third-party publishers. Software publishers that develop content that has great affinity with audiences that Nintendo has historically been strong with, namely children and families, with the Wii, are still very active supporters of Wii U. Maybe. But anyway, and their enthusiasm for Wii U can also be seen from the fact that they have even reached out to us to help people upgrade from Wii to Wii U. Don't use the term upgrade, Nintendo. That's not really the correct term you should use. You should just say, I don't know what a good word is for replacing that. I don't know. Get a different experience. Anyway, on the other hand, software publishers are not necessarily keen on making games in genres that have weaker affinity with audiences that Nintendo has not necessarily keen on making games in genres that have... Wait, what? Oh, that Nintendo has not been as strong with. There we go. Where making a huge investment does not guarantee a sufficient return. I wonder if that's the whole thing about Watch Dogs. I've heard it was like $60 million or whatever Ubisoft put into the game, and there's been all these, like, oh, is it coming for Wii U, is it not, is it delayed, blah, blah, blah. That's a thing there where if you put in a huge investment and you don't get a sufficient return, it's going to be an issue. Anyway, with regard to Wii U, we first need to create a strong foundation in areas Nintendo excels at and achieve a sufficient sales volume. Now, don't say casuals. Only in the Wii and the DS did you freaking own with the casuals. Every other system, NES, SNES, N64, GameCube, and Wii U, are more for the core fans. And the 3DS, my apologies. But anyway, you need to focus on that. Anyway, crap, I lost my spot again. If we manage to do so, those publishers will, in the overseas markets who are currently not interested in Wii U, will be attracted to the Wii U platform as they were to Nintendo 3DS. This is going to be our approach in the near future. So basically what Iwata says... Was this Iwata? I forget. Yep. He says, in order to get those third parties interested, we are going to try to improve the user base of the Wii U. Well, no fucking shit. That's kind of what you should have been doing this whole damn time. This is a really long video. Next question here. You have explained your concern about users being divided by hardware. Currently, you have both a handheld device business and a home console business, which I'm going to cut you off right there, question. That's been the case for a long time. Game Boy, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, Game Boy Advance SP, DS, DSi, DS Lite, all that stuff. And then, in the same time they'd have a home console, so that's nothing new. I would like to know whether the organizational changes that took place last year are going to lead to, for example, the integration of handheld devices and home consoles into one system over the medium term, or a focus on cost saving and the improvement of resource efficiency in the medium run. Please also explain if you still have room to reduce research and development expenses. So basically they're asking, in the future, are you just going to make one system, which kind of goes back to that Nintendo Fusion rumor, which I'm still calling bullshit. The idea of it might be quite real, but the actual information that we got about Fusion is still complete fucking bullshit. We already know that Nintendo is planning for the future and their next system, and Iwata has said before that their next handheld and home console could possibly have similar architecture, which is, what we're going to get into now. Iwata says last year Nintendo reorganized its R&D divisions and integrated the handheld device and home console development teams into one division under Mr. Takeda or whatever. Which is, as I said that story before, I've said on OBA forums or posted it and everything, where they combine their handheld team with their home console team in that new headquarters. Anyway, previously our handheld video game devices and home video game consoles had to be developed separately, as the technological requirements of each system, whether it was battery powered or connected to a power supply, differed greatly, leading to completely different architectures and hence divergent methods of software development. However, because of vast technological advances, it became possible to achieve a fair degree of architectural integration. We discussed this point, and we ultimately concluded that it was the right time to integrate the two teams. For example, currently it requires a huge amount of effort to port Wii software to Nintendo 3DS, because not only their resolutions, but the methods of software development are entirely different. Although, in the resolution sense, going from the Wii, which is 480p, to the 3DS, which is like 680p, roughly, that's 200p. That's not a big difference. Anyway, the same thing happens only when we try to port Nintendo 3DS software to Wii U. And I'm trying to think, what software on the 3DS did you port over to the Wii U? Resident Evil Revelations, I guess. That's really the main thing that comes to mind. Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate, I guess. I'm not sure which was the actual port there, if the Wii U one or the 3DS one was. Anyway, if the transition of software from platform to platform can be made simpler, this will help solve the problem of game shortages in the launch periods of new platforms. Now, right here I'm going to stop. I'm going to discuss this. It seems that what he's talking about for the future consoles, if it does share, if both the handheld and the home console share architecture that's very similar. For example, if there's a game drought for on the home console side, you could buy a game for the handheld side, but also play it on your home console. Now, I'm not saying that both systems are going to have the same library of games, because I honestly think that would be completely redundant and pointless. You would just buy one system. You wouldn't buy both then. But anyway, and especially like developers like Game Freak, don't expect this to mean that, oh, Pokemon's finally going to be on home consoles. No, it won't. No, it fucking won't. Not the main series anyway. Anyway, where are we here? Crap, I lost my spot. As technological advances took place at such a dramatic rate, we were forced to choose the best technologies for video games under cost restrictions. Each time we developed a new platform, we always ended up developing a system that was completely different from its predecessor. The only exception was when we went from Nintendo GameCube to Wii. Though the controller changed completely, the actual computer and graphics chip were developed very smoothly, and as they were very similar to those of the Nintendo GameCube. So basically the Wii was an upgraded GameCube in the power sense, which, whatever, the GameCube was what it was. I love the controller and everything. And it's still one of my favorite Nintendo consoles. But anyway, all graphics chips were developed very smoothly. Wait, did I read this again? Yep, but all other systems required ground-up effort, meaning they built it from the ground up. However, I think that we no longer need this kind of effort under the current circumstances. In this perspective, while we are only going to be able to start this with the next system, so no, not the Wii U, and don't take this that they're saying we're dropping the Wii U, because that would be the stupidest fucking thing that Nintendo could do. It will become important for us to accurately take advantage of what we have done with the Wii U architecture. So basically, this makes it seem like the Wii U's architecture will be greatly will be a great inspiration to how they proceed with their next 9th gen system. And yes, Nintendo will be around for you stupid haters that think they'll go bankrupt. Yes, Nintendo will make a 9th gen system. We can't say the same about Xbox and Microsoft and Sony. Anyway, it of course does not mean that we're going to use exactly the same architectures as Wii U. No shit, because that'd be so stupid. But we are going to create a system that can absorb the Wii U's architecture adequately. Basically, I'm guessing this means backwards compatibility, which is vintage Nintendo. They always do that, which is a good thing. So your Wii U games will play on the next system, which I don't think there was anyone who thought that wouldn't happen, because it's just kind of what Nintendo does. Which is one of the good things about Nintendo in general, is they always want you to be able to play your former games. When this happens, home consoles and handheld devices will no longer be completely different, and they will become like brothers in a family of systems. Hopefully they don't mean that the word "we" will become a family name of systems. Who knows in the long run, but on the other side, they will become like brothers, which makes you think, they're going to be two systems that work together and can coexist without actually competing against each other. We don't know exactly yet because it's still way, way too early to know any of this stuff unless you're actually one of the higher-ups at Nintendo in the development business with the hardware. But in my opinion, what this could mean, and I think I've said something similar to this before, is in the next home system there could be a slot where you could, for example, as a comparison's sake, imagine if they were doing it this generation, the Wii U would have a slot in the front or the back of it that you could plug a 3DS cartridge into, so you could play a 3DS game on the Wii U. Now, I don't know how you could flip that around and put a Wii U game on the 3DS, but that's what they're talking about in the future, where you could play a game on either system. That doesn't mean, for example, let's say the next Zelda game, like the Zelda game for the 9th gen system, which obviously has probably not even been blueprinted yet, but imagine that game. You could play it. Actually, no. Let's say a Zelda on the next home or handheld system. Let's do that. Say you want to play it on your home console, you could plug it in and play it, and it might have a little bit of different features if you played it on that, but it doesn't mean that they're going to make the same game as a physical copy for the home console as well. You'll still have to buy it for the main system that it was meant for, but you can play it on your home console. That's just my 2 cents. I could be completely wrong, but I think I'm in the ballpark there. But anyway, let's continue on. Still, I am not sure if the form factor, the size and configuration of the hardware will be integrated, meaning, one system where it's a home console and a handheld. I don't know how the fuck that would work, but whatever. Unless it was the size of like an Ouya box. Ouya. Anyway, in contrast, the number of form factors might increase. Currently, we can only provide 2 form factors, which means 2 consoles, a handheld and a home console. Because if we had 3 or 4 different architectures, we would face serious shortages of software, meaning they would have to, or on every platform, which means they'd have to split up, the development teams or hire a crap ton more developers. Now, I've talked so much I need to drink water. Hang on a sec. Okay. Where are we here? Currently, we can only... Oh, no, I read that. To cite a specific case, Apple, which, boo, Apple, you suck, you're way overpriced. Apple is able to release smartphone devices with various form factors, one after another, because there's one way of programming adopted by all platforms, which, iPhone 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's what they're talking about there. But the thing is, with iPhone, Apple with Android and all that crap, there's one platform that covers all things, one firmware that can be used on different things. That's what they're talking about here. Apple has a common platform called iOS. Another example is Android, though there are various models. Android does not face software shortages, even though I'm guessing, does he mean, like games or apps or whatever? Software shortages because there is one common way of programming on the Android platform that works with various models. The point is, Nintendo platforms should be like those 2 examples, which means the next home console and handheld, a developer should be able to develop a game and then easily put it on whichever one he wants without having any issue. But anyway, and that is not something we know at the moment. However, we are hoping to change and correct the situation in which we develop games for different platforms individually and sometimes disappoint consumers with the game shortages as we attempt to move from one platform to another. And we believe that we will be able to deliver tangible results in the future. Now, when you say future, I hope this doesn't mean that the entire 8th generation with the Wii U is going to be good game, drought. Good game, drought. And that you're finally going to get your shit together in the 9th gen, because that would be terrible. Absolutely terrible. Of course, the 3DS will still thrive the whole generation, but the Wii U can't do that. As he mentions, disappointing consumers with game shortages. Fix that. That should be one of the most highest things on your priority, as well as adding features that can at least improve the current Wii U owners and help them get through droughts easier. Like even a simple party chat where we can actually voice chat with our friends. Then we could at least talk and not have to use it on Miiverse, where there's no stupid general community. And if we want to talk about, future upcoming games or whatever, there's no communities for stuff like that. Is there a Yoshi Land U community? No. And then if we post about it, we get banned for being off topic. That's just page 2 of this. I know those were the main points and things I wanted to go over in this discussion video. This was a frickin' long discussion. Hopefully I didn't bore you too much. Hopefully you found this interesting and my insight valid or whatever. And if you agreed, great. If you don't, I guess tell me why. I don't know if I'll really care. But I'm going to end the video because it's been 47 minutes and that's long enough for a discussion. I'm Original Blood Ace. Hope to see you around. More videos coming soon, as always. And, yeah, that's about it. Stay tuned. More videos coming soon.